Hi, I'm Tim Swoboda, and for my presentation I chose BlackBerry. For a couple of reasons, I'd known for a while they were having some hard times kind of financially, and I'd followed the company a little bit. I wasn't really sure exactly why. So just kind of wanted to see what was going on and if their marketing or the way they operated was contributing to the problems. But first we'll get to the history. They were formed in '84, Waterloo, Ontario. They're originally called Research in Motion. They just recently changed the name of the company and the stock ticker. The first success for the company came in '99. They started developing the handsets, which essentially is known as a smartphone now. This is one of their first real successful models, the 857. It did what you imagine a smartphone does: phone calls, messages, emails, web browser, everything like that. And for a long time, they really were flying high, kind of in the tech world, kind of the dominant smartphone manufacturer. And it seemed like their lack of kind of innovation and maybe not seeing the way the technology was trending, they really lost a large amount of market share, specifically to Apple and Samsung. When the iPhone came out, it kind of changed everything, and it definitely hurt BlackBerry long term. But they released these two new phones. The Q10 is the one on the left. It's got that QWERTY keyboard that's kind of famous for, or made BlackBerry instantly recognizable. And the Z10 on the right has a digital keyboard everyone's used to by now. But when they introduced these, they were kind of introduced as this last chance to save the dying brand. And they really threw a lot of the resources of the company behind the campaign to market these. $200 million budget, the largest campaign budget in BlackBerry's history, and it used 6 ad agencies. So what they really tried to do was to get people to reconsider them as a brand. And one of the first things was this one-off Super Bowl ad. Literally ran one time. That's all it was ever designed to do. But they did a number more television ads. They were all kind of built to build excitement and increase curiosity, to bring people back to BlackBerry. They also had a big campaign. They targeted influencers, or what they considered influencers. So they would actually do a one-on-one demonstration with people, film stars, business leaders, politicians, in the hope that these people would be seen using the product, and it would eventually raise the brand. They did some interesting online advertising in this campaign as well. They had what they considered this takeover campaign, where you could click on the banner ad, or whatever ad was on while you were on a mobile phone. It would take you to a BlackBerry microsite, and had mobile formatted site that was used to showcase the features of the new BlackBerry 10 environment, the software features, different things where you could kind of test out the new camera, see how it organized incoming communications. And it's interesting because it lets a curious user interact and experience the product on their own time, on their own device. The amount of time the users spent on each of these ads was incredibly high for what they are, something like 4.5 minutes. They also did this joint venture with the New York Times. I think it was also kind of tied in to reach influencers. So they took over the New York Times website. They highlighted the way, again, how the BlackBerry 10 ecosystem brings in and kind of compiles data for easier sorting, easier use. And for the competitor for this campaign, I actually chose Samsung and their Galaxy line. Similar to BlackBerry, it was the largest marketing campaign they'd ever undertaken. They did $12 million budget. So it dwarfed the BlackBerry budget several times over. They didn't do anything too revolutionary or too cutting edge. They really stuck to traditional television ads, and they did some interactive kiosk where you could use the new short range radio frequency to download some freebies from them. But the primary goal of this campaign was to challenge the iPhone, and they were relentless at it. They did it in print, they did it in television. Everyone probably remembers those ads where they would have, the Apple people would be in line waiting for the new iPhone, and someone would come by with Samsung. Everyone would be amazed at how great it was, right? What I think was a really big difference between the two campaigns, or at least one big difference, was the way the media reacted to the campaigns. The media kind of fought BlackBerry the whole way. They had a lot of financial trouble and were kind of labeled as not being innovative in the smartphone space. There's tons of articles saying, BlackBerry's dead. There were a lot of questions about the long-term financial viability of the company. And this campaign, this big push for the BlackBerry 10, the Q10, Z10 rollout was kind of labeled as desperate. This perception was reinforced in the first-hand research I did, the interviews and the survey data. So I'm not really going to go into that here because there was a interesting scenario for this case. So where I see the two campaigns, and they ended during the semester for all practical purposes. And it didn't end well for BlackBerry. So for second quarter of 2013, they sold under 2 million units of these BlackBerry phones, the new BlackBerry 10. What that meant for the company was they had to underwrite a $934 million loss on those unsold phones. To put it into perspective, Samsung had sold over 20 million Galaxy phones in that same quarter, so 10 times more. But it's not just the gap between Samsung, Apple, and BlackBerry. It's really the gap between Apple, Samsung, and the rest of the pack. I mean, this is just a list of competitors that we have for BlackBerry. There's 24 corporations here, all engaged in the manufacturing of smartphone technology. It's a cutthroat business. The margins are getting smaller every year, and the revenue is decreasing as well. This chart or table shows smartphone profit share per company. It's only good for Apple and Samsung. If you look at the far right side, you'll see the difference between quarterly revenue for Samsung and Apple. They totaled 109% of all profits brought into the smartphone sector. They could do that 109 because everyone else lost money in that sector. Only two companies turned a profit, and it is reflected in BlackBerry's stock price. This is a 5-year comparison between BlackBerry and Samsung. They start essentially the same point. Samsung's in blue, BlackBerry red. BlackBerry's lost almost 85% of their total market value over that time. Samsung's up over 200%. So at this time, I just kind of assumed that I was going to end up doing a report about a tech company who, through bad management and even worse marketing, had kind of dug themselves a grave. Until about a month ago, where there was a interesting change. They fired everyone. The former CEO, CMO, Chief Operating Officer, all got fired in early November. The CEO had been there for less than 2 years. The Chief Marketing Officer was in charge of the Q10 and Z10 marketing campaigns, which I think were, in retrospect, I think they were, real solid campaigns, but I think the brand had been degraded so bad over the past few years that it didn't really matter what they were selling as long as it had the BlackBerry logo on it. There weren't going to be too many buyers. So enter the new CEO, John Chen. He has a reputation for being a turnaround expert. He took over this company, Sybase, for about 12 years. He increased the value of the company. I mean, just multiples. Sybase was actually processes mobile data. So if you're sending a text message, receiving a text message, chances are it's going through some Sybase infrastructure. They were bought out by S&P AG not all that long ago. They paid a hefty price. So that kind of got me thinking about, well, what's the future of the company now? I mean, they're obviously not going to double down on another handset, this second Hail Mary to save the company. Well, it's security. It's the only part of BlackBerry that still has a good reputation. Uh, they're known for security, for transmitting from their servers to handsets, just different types of data, always encrypted from the BlackBerry server to the handset, always encrypted on the way back. And since it's really the only competitive advantage they have, it's kind of a shame they didn't actually try to market this or exploit it a little earlier. They maybe wouldn't be in the situation they are right now. And Chen said so much in an open letter to BlackBerry customers really recently. He kind of said BlackBerry's going to return to the roots, which is delivering these end-to-end mobile solutions, which is really what made them famous. It wasn't necessarily the hardware, although they were kind of the first to get it to that usable level. But the reason they've hung around so long is because they had this data security that could be used for different companies, proprietary trade secrets, and government. Department of Defense, Department of State. They're all using BlackBerry. So moving forward, it looks like they're going to end up creating infrastructure to bring your own device. So your Android, your iPhone, whatever it is, will function the same, but they'll still be able to put that same level of BlackBerry security, regardless of what the actual device manufacturer is. So not only did I get to look at a company that had created a good campaign that ended up being a complete fiasco, but now I get to speculate onto the future of the campaign, or future of the BlackBerry in general. And I don't think it's that bad. Assuming they can do a couple things, and I think that's kill the handsets. I don't think they're going to be making smartphones for much longer. I think they're only going to focus on the server security and data transmission. They have a couple things going for them. I mean, they have 2.3 billion in cash reserves. They've got $1 billion in convertible debt from Fairfax Financial, and they have a pretty strong patent portfolio. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They're going to do their fourth quarter financials December 20th. I'd expect them to be pretty terrible. The stock's hovering somewhere around $6 right now. I wouldn't imagine that dropping a little more. But interestingly, I looked at this S&P Capital IQ. They did an analysis of the company, and they put a 52-week target price at $7. And that's basically the sum of the parts analysis. So if they were to liquidate every aspect of that company, including the patents, real estate, the whole shebang, fire sale, they value the total assets at $7. So you're still looking at a stock price that's below tangible book of value. So I think that's going to give them some benefit moving forward. As long as they abandon that consumer division, focus mostly on businesses, I think they do have a future I think they have a future moving forward. It's just going to be a very different company, and they'll be marketing a very different product. But I don't think they don't have much of a choice. If they continue producing and marketing these phones that no one wants, but I think the future's looking, if not good, better than it has in a long time. And I really think there is a place for data security in this world, and I think we'll see BlackBerry exploit that going forward. Thanks.